Coach, he's back. Mike Zimmer, kind enough to join us. From one Media Jackal meat grinder to the other, I saw you across the way. How did you do with the Jackals? Were they after you, or was it pretty calm and quiet? Did you take the starch out of them?
Well, they like the. First, thank you for letting me come today.
Good to have you. Always a pleasure.
They're always trying to get information.
Yeah.
And
get stuff going.
I haven't seen the kicker yet, so it's hard for me to.
We saw him.
He's got a nice leg.
He's got
nice
a boomer
leg.
going.
When is he ready to go? Come here, Tyler.
So this gentleman here, this guy's been hanging with you all day?
Tyler Manning. He's my ball boy today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Nice to meet you. Yeah, been quite I bet, an education for the kid. Now, how have you done? Have you kind of cleaned up the language, or how's it been for that?
I slipped once, didn't I? When he was breaking down the team, I slipped once. But
what's your first name again? Is Tyler?
Yep.
Yes.
Tyler,
Tyler.
Has this been fun for you? What's this experience been like tracking the head coach?
It was amazing. This was it's a really cool center.
Yeah.
It was like breathtaking, just seeing the inside, and all of the players and their normal, without their gi on. And
Sure,
it's cool.
sure, yeah. It's got to be fun to follow the head coach around. And it turns out on a busy news day, too. Who knew when you got this honor, this opportunity, that it was going to be the day after we're changing snappers and we got a new kicker and maybe a new punter. Who knew this is what you were going to be walking into?
Yeah, it was fun doing all of this ball boy stuff. I loved it.
It's outstanding. Well, we appreciate you stopping by.
How did Dennis Ryan treat you?
Good. We carried some of the.
He gave you some shoes and shirts.
Oh, nice. The whole bit, huh?
Yeah.
Now, you didn't do any hitting out there, did you? You didn't. No hitting?
No.
No, I wouldn't think so. That'd be a little bit rough, I would think. That's good. Well, good to see you. You can hang. You obviously hang with us here as we try to talk to the head coach a little bit about the busy day. First of all, let me ask you one thing: are you in trouble with Bill Parcells? Because the story I read today was you hung up on him. That you saw who was on the phone and you hung up on him. You don't hang up on Bill Parcells, do you?
Well, I was in the middle of a press conference. If I would have been a little quicker thinking, I would have said, "Hey, Coach, can you do this while you're here?" But
he loved doing these things.
Oh
as
yeah,
you know.
he loved them.
Yeah.
But I called him this morning. We talked this morning.
How's he doing?
He's doing very well. He's trying to buy a horse in Saratoga
Really?
tonight. Yeah, they have their horse sales, and so we were talking about that a little bit. And then he was talking about the football team, and Sean Payton was one of his coaches.
That's
as
true.
I was, and
Yeah.
so we talked a little bit about the game and things like that.
Do you ever invite him in? Does he ever make a trip in once or twice?
I almost had. No, he hasn't been in, but I did go down and see him this spring. I went to Florida and met with him for a day, but I almost had him talked into coming this year.
Really?
He said, I really want to come, and then he always says this is a busy time for his horses. So I'll get him here.
You should, yeah. After all these years, and I would assume he'd like to hang with you a little bit. All right, so I'm sure you talked about it over there, but our listeners have not heard about it. You make some changes yesterday. You admitted, I think, to them that you might have fibbed a little bit about what you knew because you weren't supposed to let the cat out of the bag. Right. Tell us about sort of how the day went yesterday.
Well, Rick came in my office, and he says we might be able to get this. We had talked about him a little bit, and then he came in my office, and it was early in the morning. He said, we might be able to get this done. And
we're talking about Kerry Vedvik, the
yes,
kicker.
Yes.
Okay.
And he said,
punter.
And he said, I said, well, what do you mean you might have gotten it done? And he said, well, he said yes, but I want to make sure we understand all the parameters of the trade and all that. And then, so right before I walked down the press conference, they said, it's done. Okay, he's got to come in here and do a physical, so don't say anything, keep it all hush-hush. So I walked down the press conference. The first question out of anybody is, what about this trade that's going on? I'm like, what do I say? So I did fib a little bit. I knew about it, but I was supposed to be quiet.
Yeah.
So I was being a good soldier.
So you had to wait it out. You were doing the job under the circumstances. So the feeling I have early, I don't know if you can speak to this yet or not, is that right now that you mainly brought Vedvik in to punt and perhaps to hold, and that maybe also as insurance as place kicker. Is that a fair characterization, or how would you lay out your thinking at this point?
Honestly, so Jerry Rosberg is a good friend of mine. He was a special teams coach with the Ravens. So I called him. I said, tell me about this guy. Is he a punter? Is he a kicker? Is he, what is he? And he said, basically, he said, he can do probably all of it. He's an NFL talent. That's all I can tell you. He can do any of these. And I said, okay. And so at the end of the day, we just need to look at him and figure it out. And, that, like I was telling those guys over there, I didn't see him today. You guys saw him more than I did because I was on the other
He's got
field.
a leg for sure, yeah. He
But-
was booming him.
But I don't know what he is. And so we'll determine that as this week goes on. When I get a chance to see him, it may be a little bit difficult to have a rookie punter, a rookie kicker, a rookie kickoff guy, so we'll have to make that decision, how it goes. We've been having problems with the holding, so I think that's a little bit of an issue there. I like Dan Bailey, and so.
I've never heard you say like a kicker before, by the way.
No,
I'm
no,
concerned about you there. Usually you don't like kickers.
No, he's a very mature professional guy. He's not flaky at all. He's a regular guy, and so
Rare for kickers.
you said that.
Yeah.
So we just have to figure really.
But
what
do
it
you
out.
worry about what impact? This guy's for a while statistically, I think he was like the all-time best kicker in football. Do you worry about then if he feels like, okay, they must not love me because they're bringing this guy in because they love his leg? Do you worry
No.
about the impact that has on him there?
Not really.
On Bailey.
Not really. What we told him is, and I didn't talk to him. I don't. We bring a guy in. I don't feel like I need to talk to you and say, hey, your job's in jeopardy, whatever.
Right.
But I think it's a competition. We go figure out. Maybe he's the punter and you're the kicker. Maybe he's the kicker and you're the punter. I don't know. So, but until we get a chance to look at him in practice and watch the tapes and those things, I don't think we can make a decision yet.
Was the whole thing? It was seen to me again, given what you want to concentrate on. Is it? Are you worried at all about you're messing with? Even though it's still early in camp, really, like you said, long snap issues, holding issues. That this is the kind of stuff I think most people like to think. Well, that's settled. That gets settled in the off season. You don't have to even think about it. You're in a very different position from that. Does that frustrate you?
No, because positions are like that all the time. We're trying to find who's the third corner, who's the
Right.
Who's the fourth receiver. I mean, all those different positions we're trying to find, and so it's just part of the process, trying to get the best players in here and figure out where we go from there.
The decision on making the switch on long snapper is just literally performance, would you say?
No,
or?
we actually talked about it last week. The operation with the center, the snapper, the holder, and the kicker had different speeds on that, different so that part we said we probably need to make a decision after this first ball game because we need to figure out, and let one guy go, and so we can kind of figure out, is it the snapper, is it the kicker, is it the holder, what is the problem here with making these field goals? And so I think hopefully that will settle down and figure out where we're at there. But Kevin McDermott was a terrific team guy, a great kid. It really was nothing he did wrong. Cutting's a little bit younger, a little bit more athletic, a little bit faster velocity. Now he's got to make sure he gets it in the right spot. So.
Mike Zimmer, our guest and the fan, after Vikings practice on this Monday from TCO Performance Center. You have your first preseason game in the book. We were talking about on the air about the Thielen catch on the first drive, on the drive that ended in a touchdown. That was first ruled as a touchdown, then he was down by contact. And I said to me that wasn't necessarily a well-thrown ball. Thielen made a heck of a play. And somebody pointed out to me, it's like, yeah, but you know what? Part of maybe the next step for Cousins, too, is trusting receivers enough that even if there's not a big, separation, let your receivers, if they're the two of the best players on your team, let them go up and make plays. Do you agree with that? How do you view that play?
Yeah, I think it was a great catch by Adam. I think Kirk got the look that he wanted. And at the end of the day, it's one-on-one. Most of the time, the receivers, that's why they paid the money they are, is they can go up and get the ball. But, that's the same thing with Rudolph, trusting him.
Right.
He's got great hands, and Diggs, same thing. So I think that's all part of the process as we move forward. But again, like I told the team the other night, I said, look, we went to Denver last year. We went right down the field and scored. We went 3 and out on defense. There's a long way to go here, and we got to continue to get better. Let's not get ahead of ourselves because we went down and scored. But I really liked how the offense looked. Quick count, get the ball out, play action, the running game. Those things were all really good to me.
And did you take anything else out of it that you were looking for,
Um,
offensively or defensively, even in terms of maybe backups?
Well, we need. Um, you talking about personnel?
Yeah.
Well, we got to get better in the secondary in the with the backups. We had way too many. We had 14 penalties, 7 of them on defense, and so that's why I've had a little chat with these guys for 3 days now about it, and I'll keep harping on it. But so we got to do better there. They had 27 first downs, and 7 of them were by penalty. So you can't win games that way.
Everybody's kind of trying to figure out the new replay of pass interference. You tested it out on a play in which you were hoping you could get offensive pass interference. I look at this from the outside, completely from the outside, thinking that this decision is a disaster. I don't think it's going to, because coaches are in the position where they got to decide when to call it, when not to, when to save it, when not to, which to me is impossible. Mm-hmm. And it's such a subjective call. Rarely is it as obvious as the Saints-Rams call. So what's your position on the change, and how do you feel this is going to play out? Because I don't think anybody's going to end up being happy.
Well, I feel there are possibly some unintended consequences by trying to officiate that one play in the NFC Championship game. I actually on the play, one of the that play typically the receiver's blocking while the ball's in the air.
Right.
So one of the coaches on the sideline was yelling that, and so I went over, and I didn't see the replay. I threw the flag, and then I looked at the replay. I said, "Oh, that was dumb."
There wasn't much there, in other words.
No.
But you got to test it out, and that's the idea of the preseason, right?
Yeah,
is to see what you can
if
come
it was
and go.
regular season, I wouldn't have done it. But there was another play in the end zone that I was going to challenge. If they would have caught the touchdown, I would have challenged that. Well, then you still have, even though they're officiating, I don't think they're officiating the pass interference part of it. It's just whether he's a catch or no catch. So there's a lot of things going on, and I hear a lot of coaches kind of saying the same thing as me. We have to figure out exactly how they're going to call it.
And do you have any? I assume you guys have meetings, and nobody that I've heard from says even after the explanations they feel any more confident about knowing.
I really think what they're going to do is, unless it's just blatant. They'll not put the flag on the field or pick it up, either one.
Mike Zimmer is our guest on The Fan. One other thing that's related to this, to beyond this season, eventually a lot of people have talked about, let me go back to the kicking. I forgot to ask this one question because I think it's strategically
Thanks, I was hoping for that.
Very important. Well, no, this is any part of this decision. This is a kicker who a lot of people liked. The word was on the street, man, this guy's got a chance to be really good. That you're not the only. Well, I know you're confident with Bailey.
There was at least 4 teams after him.
And the Bears are one of them, by all accounts. The Bears have had greater misadventures lately than you have with kickers over the last couple years. So is any part of this a strategic move by Spielman to say, yeah, let's take a look at him, and then let's also maybe block a guy who might have helped a competitor within the division?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. It was. I mean, if that's a byproduct of it, so be it. But that really wasn't the intention.
No, it was not. You're telling the truth, because I don't know when you're fibbing or when you're.
This is the truth.
This is the truth.
Yeah.
By the way, the other thing about the off season in terms of the league, real quick, is there's this new discussion about we hate preseason football. Fans don't like seeing it. It's too expensive, so we either have to expand the playoffs or we have to go to an 18-game schedule. Well, if the commissioner called you and said, Mike, what do you think of this idea of an 18-game schedule where players, though, the maximum number of games they could play in would be 16? Would you be okay with that? Would you say, okay, there's some strategy we can get into with that, or would you lose your mind?
Yeah, I'd probably lose my mind. I didn't know this, but Paul Allen told me I'm 18-4 in the preseason.
Is that right?
Why do I want to get rid of that?
You might want to have more. Who knew? It's an outstanding preseason record. All right, so what's the objective this week?
We need to clean up the penalties, right? Number one thing, defense needs to run the football better than they did the other night, and I'm hoping that we continue to be efficient and run the offense the other night we had very few guys running to the other side of the formation,
right.
Things that you normally see in the first preseason game. Had one pre-snap penalty, which was great, but we had holdings, we had pass interferences, all those things. So that is the number one thing as we move forward. And then like I keep telling them all the time, we need to play together as a team. If we'll play together as a team, play complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams, then I think we have a chance to be a good team.
Two last things for you. One, is it possible we won't see Dalvin Cook hardly at all in the preseason? What is your thinking?
You're going to see him. I just, they had brand new turf down. It was finished the day before the game.
Right.
And I made the decision before that, but you'll probably see him in there a little bit this week.
I mean, I wouldn't blame you. We are saying this. Why you want to risk regulars in any preseason game? I guess you have to get them out there, right?
Well, especially
but it's just
offensively, we've got a new system.
True.
We're trying to work together. I could probably see the defense not playing because they've been together for a little bit, but offensively, I think working together and getting the continuity together and running the right routes and right depths and things like that, I think that help. Now, the other thing that was really good the other night was protection. This first preseason game, I think Bobby told me something like, in how 10 years that we haven't given up a sack in the first preseason game. But when I looked at the protection, and we talked about it as coaches about a week ago, we need to start getting better with protection. They've gotten better and better and better as we've gone on. And we've helped them with a lot of the play actions, the different protections that we're running, the things like that. And I think that's helped Kirk as well.
I was going to say, and then he had a nice scramble on the 3rd and 9 on the beginning of that drive.
Yeah, we've been working.
So it's the new rumbling Cousins down the field, huh?
Well, it makes it difficult when the quarterback can scramble, and he had a couple in there today that he ran. So
and then he had the rollout right that led to the catch, the tight end throw as well, right?
Right.
Which you kind of liked. One defensive question. I don't think we talked about this at the beginning of camp. Everson Griffen is an interesting name. He's been a huge part of this defense for a while. I don't have to tell you. Last season was cataclysmic across the board for him personally and professionally. Where is he now? Because I hear from people who are close to him say he's in a really good place. How is that going to translate to the field? What is realistic to expect of Everson, given what you could say, his age, the mileage on him, etc.? What do you need from him?
Well, part of what we need is his energy. I think we lost that a little bit when he came in there because he was always kind of the bunny, whatever that battery bunny, whatever.
Energizer
bunny.
Yeah.
That kind of, got the team going and things like that. So I think we missed that a little bit. He's still powerful. He's still got great first step explosion. I feel like we'll have to manage him throughout the course of the season as far as play time so that he can be effective at the end of the year, which fortunate we have some depth in the defensive line. But I feel really good about it. When you talk to him, he's the same old Everson he's always been. And, I feel like he's still got a lot of time left.
Thanks for the time. Good to see you again.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate it as always. Good to see you.